Don't settle for bad socks. Get comfort and grip at an affordable price with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Choose from 18 different colors at puregripsocks.com.
When it comes to takedown model football boots, especially from Adidas, I think the expectation is typically that the cheaper versions aren't going to be as good as the expensive ones. What nobody expects, however, is for them to be almost exactly the same. Let me explain. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the brand new Adidas Predator Accuracy.2, the first takedown model in the new Predator lineup, retailing for $100 less than the .1 model above it at $150, which is definitely not inexpensive, but just like that .1 model, it features a hybrid touch upper, a mid-cut design, actual prime knit across the top of the foot, rubber elements in the exact same spots for additional grip, the same stud pattern, with realistically the only physical difference that you can see being the lack of a split sole design. So for $100 less, you're effectively getting the exact same football boot. Or so it seems, because there is a catch, and it's in regards to the fit, something that has plagued Adidas takedown models for as long as I can remember, and unfortunately is an issue with the Accuracy.2 as well. We're going to go over all the details of these football boots, talk about exactly how they compare to the more expensive .1 variation, take a look at how they fit and feel on feet, and ultimately conclude whether or not these are worth $150. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire review, and if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. And really quickly, if you guys enjoy these brutally honest reviews, perhaps want to see more takedown models on the channel, don't forget to drop a like on the video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. So first things first, I just want to give you a quick side-by-side visual of the $250 Accuracy.1 and the $150 Accuracy.2. As you can see, side by side, the boots appear very similar. There's definitely some differences in the construction of the sole plate, split sole construction on the top end model, solid plastic sole plate on the .2, but the uppers, both hybrid touch, definitely some more visually appealing glossy elements on the top end model, but rubber elements in all the same spots, basically the exact same cut and lacing system, the same hybrid touch synthetic, the exact same stud patterns, meaning that basically for $100 less, you're getting all of the same meaningful technologies that make the .1 so great on the much cheaper .2, something that honestly I don't think we can say about any other takedown model. With that in mind, there are still minor differences despite the similarities in terms of looks, mainly in the hybrid touch upper actually having a little bit of a different liner. So this does feel slightly firmer from the top end model in hand, but honestly when the boots are on your feet, you're going to be hard pressed to tell a difference between the hybrid touch on the Plus and .1 versus the hybrid touch on the .2. It's effectively the exact same thing in terms of feel and experience, which is not a bad thing at all. It feels thin with that little bit of padding to it, and in general gives you a little bit more of a leather-like sensation than I think we've seen on the Predator series for quite some time. The rubber elements are exactly the same as well in terms of providing that extra grip. You can see they are raised little rectangles, pink in color on this particular colorway, and it spans pretty much the entire area of the foot where you're going to be controlling, passing, and striking the ball, providing tons of additional grip without really needing to try to generate more spin. There is a definite controlled sensation from having this here, but it's not overbearing like we've seen with some of the past Predator models where rubber elements have kind of been scattered across the entire foot, and particularly when it comes to shooting, generating spin just seems almost effortless with this extra grip. And then on the lateral side, it does have that kind of 3D texturing as well. These little black rectangles have a little bit of roughness to it. Is it sticky like the rubber? Absolutely not. And in general, I don't think it's a super meaningful feature, but again, when you're comparing it to the top end model, it feels almost identical. What doesn't make sense, however, and honestly, this is completely meaningless when it comes to the actual performance of the boot, but you can see it says high definition grip, and it is rated 2 out of 4 rectangles. Where on the .1 variation, the rating system is out of 5 rectangles, and it's scoring 4 out of 5. That's an 80% grip rating versus a 50% grip rating, even though both boots provide the exact same amount of grip. In other words, Adidas haven't rated their own football boots properly, but that's okay, that's why I'm here. Across the top of the foot, you're going to find an elasticated prime knit material that, again, isn't quite as nice as what you're going to find on the 0.1, but ultimately the difference is pretty minimal. The laces, for the most part, are pretty central. They're maybe pushed slightly to the outside, but it's a one-piece upper construction using a dual lace hole setup, allowing for plenty of adjustability with the laces tied tight once you get the boots on your feet. Of course, you do get a mid-cut design on the Accuracy.2. It's the only variation on offer, where with the 0.1, there is a low-cut model that you can go for. They have not given you that option this time around like they have done in past years. Nonetheless, this elasticated prime knit material, again, might not be as premium looking up close, but ultimately feels the same, and ultimately, just like the top end model, does nothing at all. Internal plastic heel counter. The heel lining material is this soft microfiber that, again, is a touch cheaper than what you'll find on the top end model, but not something that I think necessarily feels bad against your heel. It's the shallowness that we'll get to in just a second. And then, of course, the insole, fully removable, something that we don't typically see on Adidas takedown models. It is, again, bordering exactly the same as what you'll find on the more expensive variation, with this soft kind of mesh liner on the surface, and it's being made from a single layer of this black foam. And then moving to the base, you'll find the same solid sole plate construction originally introduced on the Edge 0.2, which is the boot that these replace, compared to the Accuracy 0.1 or Plus top end models. This admittedly just feels more flexible in general, but not overly bulky. In terms of general thickness, it feels about the same, and I can't really say, despite its cheaper looks, that it necessarily feels any cheaper underfoot. You do, of course, get that little plastic insert at the tip of the toe that would be a tungsten weight on the top end model. Don't worry, it does nothing on these, just as it does on the top end model, so not really a feature that you need to worry about. It's just there as a filler to look a little bit more expensive. And then the FG stud pattern, again, the same as what you'll find on the top end model, and honestly, I think really fitting for this style of football boot. It's got a little bit more of a bladed design than what we've seen in a couple generations of Predators before this, but overall, I think it suits the football boot. The traction is solid, and as far as sole plates go, at $150, I don't think it's one of the better options out there, but it certainly gets the job done and isn't bad in any way. Which brings us to the weight, where historically it's been pretty normal for the Adidas takedown models to weigh significantly more than the top end models, but that doesn't seem to be the case this time around. Both in the same size 9.5 US, I have the Accuracy 0.1 and the Accuracy 0.2. We'll start off with the $250 Accuracy 0.1, and you can see that they weigh in at 9 ounces exactly, the equivalent of 255 grams. Remember those numbers, and we'll throw on the Accuracy 0.2, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.1 ounces, the equivalent of 257 grams, making for a grand total of a 2-gram weight difference, with, of course, the 0.2 being that little bit heavier. But are you actually going to feel 2 grams on your feet? Absolutely not. On feet, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The Predator Accuracy 0.2 is very much let down by the incredibly shallow fit that it has through the heel. I recently reviewed the Copa Pure 0.2, the same first takedown model in the new Copa line, and it too suffers from a shallow heel. Unfortunately, for those, it's a low-cut design, so you could actually see how shallow those were. These are even worse, but it's hidden by the mid-cut structure, where if that wasn't there, you could legitimately see half the grips on the grip socks that I'm wearing running up the back of the heel. It feels like the boot is grabbing you from the very base of your heel with almost nothing happening up here, like your heels are going to pop out, and it's just such an uncomfortable pressure in such an awkward spot. It just doesn't feel good. And it's crazy to think that this is still an issue that plagues Adidas takedown models, but honestly, this is one of the worst shallow fitting heels that I think we've seen in recent years. It just does not feel comfortable on my feet whatsoever. Everything else about the boot feels awesome. The hybrid touch, again, very similar to that of the 0.1. The shape of the 0.2 in general is actually a little bit lower volume and slightly less wide than what you're going to find from the 0.1 and Plus models, which some people might actually prefer. The lacing system allows for really good lockdown through the midfoot, forefoot, and toe box area. Again, it's just that heel area that I think feels absolutely terrible when compared to other top-end models as well as other football boots in the same price range. Of course, nothing else that you can buy is going to have the same level of grip that these have on offer, but again, do you want that grip with comfort and general quality of fit being the sacrifice? For me personally, definitely not. From a width perspective, I think they're going to be suitable for most foot types. They're definitely not as wide as the top end models, but still decently wide enough for most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you are looking to get a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, I can't help but think to myself that Adidas have more or less sabotaged their own product in the Accuracy.2, and that they've given this football boot all of the best and meaningful technologies and materials that you get on the more expensive Accuracy.1, which is currently one of my favorite football boots on the market, but they made this super shallow fitting heel so uncomfortable that it makes me not want to wear the Accuracy.2. And to be clear, you're never gonna have a perfect pair of football boots. There's always gonna be at least one thing where there's room for improvement, but in the case of the Accuracy.2, the legitimately one thing that it gets wrong, it gets so wrong that it almost ruins the entire experience. And the reason why I say almost is, for me personally, I just find them too uncomfortable. I hate the way that they fit through the heel, but depending on the shape of your foot, it might work out for you. If you've worn Adidas takedown models in the past that have had that shallower feel and you don't mind it, perhaps you even like it, then I definitely think the Accuracy.2 is a phenomenal pair of takedown model football boots, even at that relatively high $150 retail price. But given that it gives you effectively everything important about the $250 version, that retail price is well worth it. However, it really is one of those football boots that you have to try on. And unfortunately, I think for the vast majority of people, when it comes to overall comfort, particularly through the heel, these just won't be very good. And if you're wondering why Adidas makes the heel so shallow on their takedown models, quite honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I have to believe that they're aware of it, and honestly, it's shocking at this point that it remains to be an issue.